in the long run.
And these schemes, also known as pyramid schemes, have led to losses running into billions of naira by unsuspecting victims.
Well, there's a little, Nadab, I'm sure you know, there's a little difference between pyramid schemes and Ponzi schemes,
Yeah.
but they are related.
Mm.
Pyramid schemes rely on what we call networking. You recruit more people and all that.
And you
But
keep
Ponzi,
moving.
yeah, exactly, and you keep
Yeah.
moving.
Yeah.
But many Ponzi schemes have trended in Nigeria over the years. Remember the Mavrodi Mondial, that's the money by MMM. Okay, let's put it as MMM. It was a popular one that fleeced about 3 million Nigerians of close to about 18 billion naira between 2015 and 2016. I'm sure that you weren't one of those.
Yeah, that was a huge amount, really, 18 billion.
18 billion.
Now, the crash of the MMM really temporarily halted keen interest in these Ponzi schemes. But the recent warning by Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, indicates that Ponzi schemes have resurfaced in Nigeria. Clear?
Again, so investigations are ongoing to unravel those behind. For instance, a scheme that has fleeced over 149 billion naira from Nigerians between 2019 and 2020. Now, SEC adds that the latest incident where investors were promised returns on investment of up to 60 and 110% has led to a suicide, warning Nigerians to stay away from such transactions that promise very high returns and nothing in the long run.
Very high returns and with no risk. Can you imagine that?
Exactly.
Now, experts, on the other hand, seek a regulatory response to shut down these schemes early enough before they cause harm. They advise SEC to publish the list of licensed and unlicensed financial institutions, as well as those facing disciplinary action.
Well, a joint committee has been set up to address violation of consumer rights and unfair practices in the money lending industry, with plans to shut down those violating the law. That's one measure.
And the committee is also made up of representatives of Federal Competition, and Consumer Protection Commission, the CBN, the EFCC, National Information Technology Development Agency, and the National Human Rights Commission.
Now, here is the concern of SEC that, the antics deployed by, these illegal lending firms to attract their victims, and advise that the capital market should be more liquid to make alternatives less attractive.
And the further advised Nigerians to ensure that all financial institutions they invest in are registered. Well, it is important to ask why these Ponzi schemes have resurfaced in Nigeria. What makes them thrive, despite the harm caused by them, really. And these issues inform our focus on the return of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria today. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. I'm Yusuf Nadabo Usman.
And I'm Claire Dilabu Abdul Razak, and we're reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. From our studios here in Abuja. We will be taking complimentary segments, as you're aware for now, to include business news and, of course, newspaper review, and much later we'll look at sports. We now have a new coach. And Musbah Wahab is here. Musbah, that's an interesting news this morning.
Well, it's really an interesting news about whether Nigerians, particularly the football fans, want to hear such announcements is another case, because we are talking of a moment where we have an interim coach, a coach for a major tournament, and then you're announcing.
That's Guavon.
Yeah, Guavon is in charge as interim coach, and now you have just announced Jose Pasero. Whether it's good enough for that job will be a discussion for another time.
Please get on with the news. Thank you.
All right, let's get to the news. The federal government is promising to take appropriate measures towards improving access to foreign exchange for the importation of raw materials and machines that are not locally available. President Muhammadu Buhari gave the assurance while exchanging views with the leadership of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, says every effort at promoting a virile manufacturing sector in the country will be supported by his administration.
That, like we have done in the recent past, we will give consideration to some of the constraints that are yet to be fully addressed, especially those that align with our policies and programs for economic recovery and sustainable development. Let me assure you that this administration is fully aware that the survival of Nigeria lies in agriculture and having a viable domestic manufacturing sector. Specifically, Nigeria will take appropriate measure to improve access to forex for importation of raw materials and machines that are not available locally.
Meanwhile, the steering committee of the Presidential Artisanal Gold Mining Development Initiative has been directed to develop innovative ways towards ensuring that the Nigerian mining story goes beyond artisanal and small scale to the next level. President Muhammadu Buhari gave a directive during an audience with the committee, saying gold mining must deliver tremendous fiscal and economic benefit to the nation.
Support the steering committee's target of aggregating 3 to 5 tons of gold over the next 12 months, as this will deliver tremendous fiscal and economic benefits to the nation. Now that you have successfully delivered a pilot scheme in Kebbi State, it is time to roll out and expand sustainably across other states. The government is committed to providing all the necessary support required.
And now to infrastructure, the issuance of Sukuk has proven to be a success story in all ramifications, with the biggest impact of its proceeds changing the ugly faces of 44 roads across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country.
Indiscriminate dumping of refuse can be associated with everything, including defacing the environment and actual disease in human beings. Apart from the cholera, we also have the risk of other diseases associated with poor sanitation.
Apologies for that wrong insert there. As part of its mandate to ensure adequate prevention, mitigation and response, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadiya Umar Farouk, has paid a visit to Next Cash and Carry More to ascertain the level of damage done by the fire incident.
The government, we offer our deepest sympathy. It's a loss to the government and people of this country, not just the management of this organization. We are also going to come in as a government to see how we can support this organization.
Obviously, because of the love of Next Cash and Carry in Abuja, the community of Abuja, and our love for our community and for Nigeria, the board of directors, which is Nigerian company, Mr. Ndibi Obi, the owner of the business, we will be building Next Cash and Carry Abuja in due course time again.
And now normalcy has returned to the communities that came under attack recently in the southern zone of Nasarawa State, as the internally displaced persons say they are willing to return back to their places of abode.
We have invited our traditional rulers, invited all the displaced persons in order to go into a fact-finding mission to find out exactly what happened. We have been able to find out what happened.
Now let's get some update on COVID-19 as additional cases of COVID-19 has been reported by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and CDC. The latest figures indicate that Lagos State is leading with 1,036 new cases and followed by Nasarawa with 92, Delta got 58, FCT 57, Edo 44, and Rivers State recorded 25 new cases. Others are Kano 23, Enugu 11, Plateau 6, and Bayelsa 3. The 1,355 new cases, Nigeria now has 240,374 confirmed cases, out of which 213,491 have been treated and discharged, and 3,028 deaths have been recorded so far. And that's a bit of the news this morning. Good morning, Nigeria. We'll continue with Claire and Yusuf in just a moment. Meanwhile, Claire, enjoy your welcoming of Jose Pacero. Let's see what he has to bring on board.
The Nigerian aviation sector is rapidly growing with the construction of new international airport terminals in several regions of the country. The new Murtala Mohammed International Airport has an estimated passenger increase of 30 million annually and 15 million for Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Malam Aminu Kano International Airport is also expected to open new frontiers for the region with more travel capacity for the annual Hajj, while the new Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, avails more business opportunities connecting the industrial cities in the region to the world. These new terminals beat world-class standards with enabling infrastructure that aid air travel, tourism, and the eventual growth of the country's GDP.
Open up commerce and, of course, link us to international societies.
People from international community will come here to do business, and then that will bring in more revenue to the state.
Now, distances can be seamlessly covered as Nigeria keeps raising its bar to suit global infrastructure standards.
Now everybody knows I'm the man.
Enjoy the reward that sharing brings with the Airtel Family Plan. Get bonus talk time, SMS, and data for each family member you share with. Dial *141# now. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Candidates who are interested in gaining admission into NTA TV College, JOS, for the 2021-2022 two-year National Innovation Diploma Program are to apply for admission through the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB. Courses available for application include Film and Television Production, Broadcast Journalism, and Television Engineering Technology. Such candidates must have a minimum of 5 O-level credits in relevant subjects including English language and mathematics. For inquiries, please call 0803-079-5335 or 0806-980-9807. Management Announcer.
We have come to the end of another successful year. We wish to appreciate all those who mean so much to us. Our clients, the 3 tiers of government, ministries, departments, and agencies, corporate bodies, advertisers, religious bodies, civil society groups, political parties. You are esteemed viewers. Together, we made 2021 great. Together, we shall make 2022 greater. Thank you. Wishing you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year from all of us at NTA.
Let's now take a peep into what's likely to happen in business in 2022. And in our package today, our correspondent reports that the World Bank is saying Nigeria and other emerging economies have to think twice before raising electricity tariffs. As such, in their opinion, will push inflation up. Let's join Alika Okpanachi Arwa.
In its latest commodity market outlook forecast, the World Bank indicated that prices of electricity which peaked at 80% higher this year compared to 2020, will remain high next year. Chief Economist and Director of the World Bank's Prospective Group, Hayan Kosi, said the surge in energy prices poses significant near-term risk to global inflation and, if sustained, could also weigh on growth in energy importing countries. Meanwhile, U.S. oil rose for 6th consecutive session on Wednesday, while Brent gained more ground with a broad-based rally in global markets supporting prices. The benchmark Brent crude rose 23 cents at $79.70 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude added 21 cents at $76.19 a barrel. Both contracts are trading near their highest levels in a month, aided by strength in equities. With business news, Alika Okwanachi, Arua.
Now, and up next on Good Morning Nigeria is the newspaper review.
And Bayo Atebe is right here, and he knows I'm on yellow today. So,
Good morning.
Bayo, good morning. Good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, let's get started with the Nation newspaper. Now, and above the masthead of the Nation newspaper, we have a couple of stories, rather three specifically. And the first one is on page 2, and it says, crossover night, states take COVID-19 measures. On page 4, autonomy, why governors are yet to comply with executive order. Details of that on page 4. And on pages 3 and 28, on page 3 we have specifically gunmen kill monarch, 2 sons in Zamfara. And on page 28, abductors of Plateau royal father demand 500 million naira. 500 million naira. That's serious. 0.5 billion. Now, getting down on that masthead, we have the following stories. One is on page 28 still. Niger, Kogi, Nasarawa governors signed budget on page 28. And still on page 28, Kaduna to spend 8.2 billion naira on health. Details still on page 8. And 28, that is. The main story on the Nation newspaper is our worries over 2023 general elections by INEC. And then there is one, rider there says worsening insecurity poses great threat. Worsening insecurity poses great threat. The other stories are 16.7 billion naira for pensioners. Details on page 7. NFF confirms Pasero for the Super Eagles. Details on page 31. And then 2 Nigerians are global scientists. Details on page 6. And on page 30, we have residents pay homage to Desmond Tutu. Other stories in the Nation newspaper are Buhari, manufacturers will have better access to Forex. Details on page 5. At the foot of the page, we have next supermarket, Infano throws 4,000 into unemployment. Details on page 6. Clear? Do you have anything down?
Yes, we'll take a look at the front page of the Leadership newspaper, and it has as its lead story, if we can get the Leadership on, it's of course the lead story is on retirees and their pensions. And there you have it. Retirees groan, states owe billions in pension arrears. And the details of that story you can find on page 4. Now, we also have a story just on the front page on it's on the president demanding progress report on solid minerals fund. And of course, assuring manufacturers of access to Forex is also there. And there's 2022 budget. Federal government must focus on power agriculture to grow economy. That's an expert's advice, all on the front page of the leadership newspaper. There are also other stories. Of course, if you the camera tilts down a bit, you'll see the story on the president, one of the president's aides. Of course, Garba Shehu recovers from COVID-19 is also there. Now, Super Eagles get new coach Pasero. It's also on the front page, and details you can read up in the sports column. And bandits kill district head and 2 sons in Zamfara. That's bandits again attacking communities in Zamfara State. More tributes in for Desmond Tutu at the memorial service. Those are some of the stories on the front page of the leadership bio.
Thank you, Claire. Let's start with the attention that President Muhammadu Buhari made a demand of the progress report on solid minerals development fund yesterday. He directed the Presidential Artisan Gold Mining Development Initiative, PAGMI, to scale up operations in the mining sector. This is to enable the investments go beyond just artisanal as well as small-scale level. Now that a pilot scheme has been delivered in Kebbi State, the President says that it is time to expand across other states of the Federation. And this is very important because nearly every state of the Federation has one good solid mineral or the other. And in the initiative to diversify our economy, that is another direction to look very critically at. The steering committee and management team is led by the Professor Ibrahim Gambore, the Chief of Staff to the President. In fact, the blueprint reports that Nigeria loses about $5 billion to gold smuggling in 6 years. It's the season of budget, like Yusuf read there. Kogi State Governor Yahya Bello signed the budget of 145.8 billion into law. Also, his Niger State counterpart, Governor Abubakar Bello, signed an appropriation of 211 billion into law. At Lafia, Governor Abdullah Esudi assented to 110 billion as the budget for 2022. Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun signed 351 billion as budget for the year 2022. Lagos State House of Assembly has just passed 1.7 trillion budget. It is awaiting the assent of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. I think that is the highest from all the states. Rivers and Bayelsa State have commenced administering COVID-19 booster vaccines to eligible persons. Dr. Joseph Orang, who is the Rivers State Health Management Board, clarified that only those who have already had the 2 jabs and over a period of 6 months will qualify for that. And in Bayelsa State too, the Executive Secretary, Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Bekesu Amakwepreye, says that booster doses are available in 23 locations, including 15 private hospitals, as well as local government headquarters. The initiative is to ensure that people are further protected. But meanwhile, in the Federal Capital Territory, there has been an advice against elaborate crossover services. Mr. Ikaru Atta, who heads the monitoring and enforcement in the Federal Capital Territory, says that religious leaders have been told at a meeting to adhere strictly to guidelines. That is 50% of their capacity for any mass gathering of faithful activities. The FCT administration urged worship centers planning elaborate New Year crossover religious activities to please adhere strictly to recommended initiatives. This is because only after Christmas, FCT recorded about 886 cases of COVID-19, and it seems to be on the increase. Already, it's also announced that the ban on nightclubs and social gatherings still remains. It says the enforcement team will be going around and they will ensure that that is strictly enforced. Travelers across the Niger Bridge on the Asaba-Onitsha Expressway have been stranded. The newspaper report from The Punch indicates that the Great Lord is so long that there's a tailback from the Asaba end of the bridgehead up to near the Asaba airport. Some travelers had to resort to trekking and carry their baggage along to be able to get across. The problem one commuter said the problem is that one cannot tell exactly what is causing the gridlock. There are other 2 points that have been also identified after the bridgehead. They say that there is a checkpoint by security at Idemili and as well as Ihiala end, which is also causing a lot of delay. But all those checkpoints are there in the interest to protect the persons.
Indeed, in the interest, on the Onitsha Asaba end of the bridge. I know as at Monday I had someone traveling on that road, and she also indicated, in fact, she had to put a call to me to say, look, that there are checkpoints, security checkpoints, which is probably we could attribute the gridlock to. So I don't know how we can make the search, if it is search, the search process, a bit seamless so that traffic will flow. And also, travelers are in a hurry to get to their destination. So there's, of course, the reckless driving, flouting of traffic rules. You want to reckless overtaking, and all sorts of, what would I say? Careless use of our roads, as the FRSC would say. So these are all contributory factors to the gridlock on that axis. Something needs to be done. I think maybe we need to put more, traffic control officers there, as well, to help, the human movement.
No matter the number of traffic controls we put, unless we change our attitude on the highway, we will continue to have gridlocks. Unfortunately, that bridge is not too wide. It's supposed to be a 2-lane. But because people are in a hurry, you find them, they will drive across the other lane and then block it. So everybody comes and stands still. And in fact, one of the commuters was saying that we are praying that the federal government should hurry up with the second Niger bridge so that at least they can rest from this confusion.
And once there's a standstill on that bridge,
it is our impatience, that causes it.
I agree. I agree.
The other good news now is that Nigeria Football Federation has announced the appointment of Jose Becerril as the head coach of the Super Eagles. The 61-year-old Becerril has experience as manager in the 3rd and 4th tier of Portuguese League. He also had a club assignment, including coaching a Portuguese club, Sporting CP, which he took to the UEFA Cup final in 2005. He had international exposure too. In fact, his last appointment was the coach of Venezuela. He abandoned the position following the fact that he has not been paid for over several years. He also had a stint coaching Saudi Arabia. But his assignment here is that he will come, he will be at AFCON. Austin Oguavo will be in charge, and it is after AFCON that will assume full responsibility as coach of the Nigerian Super Eagles team. But the point that has to be made is that our charity in football should begin at home. You shouldn't follow the path of Gennett Rowe, who waited for ready-made players from abroad. You need to scout for players at home who are hungry for success, not players who are already made and are always very cautious to give their full commitment when they come for international assignments.
Well, I wish you listened to Musbah Danwahab's response to, my remarks as well. Yes. But Bayo, we've run out of time. I'm sorry. It's not me. It's the director and the producer. Usman is saying I have to sign you out from here. But I think it's something we will look at more, in depth on either this program or any of our programs. The need for a foreign coach for our Super Eagles. So thank you, Bayo, and have a good day. We'll see you. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Yusuf and I will be back in a moment to continue the program. Stay with us.
Compliment of the season, we want to thank you for your consistent support and patronage. And to you who may not have been patronizing Made in Nigeria, we can start today by building a relationship with Erisco Foods, like our numerous partners and customers who believe in eating healthy food and in the economic progress of our country. So we enjoy you to buy Erisco tomato paste and our other Made in Nigerian products join the following people, institutions, and others in promoting the proudly Nigerian dream. President Muhammad Buhari, the First Lady Dr. Mrs. Aisha Muhammad Buhari, Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum, NTA, Anglican Diocese of Amish, Catholic Diocese of Onitsha, the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Winners Chapel, ShopRite, Cash and Carry, Spa Nigeria, Prince Banner Supermarket, Booker Hut. What about you? When you buy a Risco product, you are supporting us to create more jobs. Be part of us today. Thank you. God bless you.
We're trying our best to contain the situation. In our operations, we've been able to make a lot of recoveries. We've been able to also arrest suspects that are involved in this kind of activities. And we've been able to also recover particularly arms and ammunition from those who are carrying it unlawfully and disturbing the peace of the people. But generally, our morale in the Nigerian police is always guided by our commitment to do what we have sworn to do. Peace and security must be looked into as a priority by all, to look at security as the business of all of us.
This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest assets the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth entrepreneurship support, yes, by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. Hashtag Youth for Greater Nigeria, pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
The 157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportations, kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause. Arise, O Nigerians! Let's applaud the courage of Flight Lieutenant Abayomi Dairo, aka the Aggressor, for his skillful and dogged escape from the bloodthirsty bandits in the forest of Zamfara State. 3 hearty cheers also to all military and security personnel who are tirelessly protecting fellow Nigerians from insurgency and banditry while maintaining peace and order. Nigerians are proud of Abayomi Dairo and all our gallant men and women in uniform for sacrificing so much to keep us safe. We admire your courage and we say thank you. God bless the armed forces. God bless Nigeria. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
And as a prompt for our conversation, which is on the return of Ponzi schemes, let's take the background report from our correspondent, Joseph Watson.
Invest your capital in a business and get a return with an interest of 100% or above within a short period of time. This is what Ponzi schemes promise investors, luring many to invest heavily into the business with high dreams of making fast money and growing a sustainable investment. Many globally have struggled to resist the temptation, especially at a critical time of economic meltdowns. MMM was one among popular schemes that came up shortly after Nigeria went into recession. Unfortunately, between 2015 when it was launched and 2016 when it crashed, 3 million people lost 18 billion naira. After getting many to invest hugely into the scheme, these operators at a point disappear with the funds, leaving the participants in depression. Business fortunes have crumbled, and reports of suicide and people attempting to take their lives due to the loss are common. This is becoming a growing concern, with many Nigerians still falling victims of late. Media reports indicate millions of citizens have lost 300 billion naira to Ponzi schemes in the past few years. The Security and Exchange Commission recently announced it is investigating a fraudulent scheme estimated to have illegally collected over 147 billion naira from investors between 2019 and 2020. To curb the trend, experts have suggested a shutdown of these unlicensed financial institutions before they cause more harm. Though the federal government have continued to warn the public against patronizing such institutions, it has gone a step further to set up a joint committee made up of relevant agencies to address violation of consumer rights and unfair practice in the money lending industry, and as well take down those found wanting. But how far will these moves crack down this business and protect Nigerians from the wonder banks? How damaging is Ponzi scheme to the nation's economy? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will x-ray these questions in a while.
Joseph Otseng giving us a background report on the return of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria. And it is my pleasure to introduce Ogbonna Ukuku, investment promotion and economic development expert. He joins us for this discussion. Mr. Ukuku, thank you very much once again, and compliment of the season.
Yeah, compliment of the season. Thanks for having me.
And Ahmad Abubakar Tanimo is a former banker, a former lawyer. He's a human rights activist and, a lawyer. He's not a former lawyer, a lawyer. Former banker, a lawyer, human rights activist, and of course a social commentary. But most importantly for our conversation, he is or was a victim of a Ponzi scheme. So let me welcome Ahmad Abubakar Tanimo.
Thank you for having me.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
And also joining us is Dr. Clement Adewale, Head Department of Banking and Finance, University of Jos. He joins the conversation from our studio in Jos. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Compliments of the season.
Right. Gentlemen, you're welcome once again. And then compliments of the season. The year is winding up. And then we should soon be in 2022. But it seems as if a lot more is happening these days. A lot more is happening about, finances, livelihoods, standards of living and the rest of them. And so many things are pouring into the basket. People are getting geared up in order to see to it that 2021, 22 becomes really a better year than 2021. That might have informed the return of the Ponzi so much with some kind of strength and force. Let's establish this premise. Now, what is really happening? Is it true that these things have to be in order to make life better? How so vulnerable are Nigerians? And, is the recession or the unemployment or the state of the economy all contributory factors? The Ponzi schemes are getting back so strongly against the fact that we've lost so much and people are still losing not only money now, but even lives. Ogbonna Ukuku, tell us, they're back. Why are they back? And so strong indeed.
Anyway, let me start from trying to build a background to
right.
the when it comes to, there are 4 pillars to economic development. That's when you want to grow a society. First thing is a set of rules that you have within that society Two, you have institutions to make sure that those rules are being carried out. There are teams of people who are motivated to make sure that those rules are being carried out. Number three is very important, a critical mass of an informed citizenry, which is your citizens must understand the rules, they must understand how to live, the norms, their connections, the people that they interact with. And then the fourth one is the political leadership. These are people who now legislate those rules. These are people who motivate those teams of people, those institutions that must make sure that they carry out the activities that they are meant to carry out. And then again, they are also saddled with the responsibility to make the citizenry understand what needs to be done and what they shouldn't get into. Now, I said all of this to say, now, these things will always reoccur because the critical mass of informed citizenry is one huge gap that we have missed, because it's actually the denominator of every single thing I have listed out here. For you to have good governance, for you to have good leadership, these same people come from the same society. So if we don't educate our people, if they don't know those rules that they need to adhere to, they will always go back to this. They become vulnerable to some of these people who sit down and develop these schemes. Now, they know that whether you like it or not, there are still people who will listen to them. They know that people are far from understanding the norms. Now, if someone walks up to you and says to you that, I have a transaction, come into this transaction or come into this community of people who, let me say a community or cooperative where you earn something so huge. First things first, the first thing I ask myself is, or the person should ask is, what exactly are you going to be doing with this money? Are you creating like, do you have an investment in the space that will give you that kind of yield? So it goes to show that, one, the institutions have not done what they're supposed to do, which is being able to regulate the environment. Two, a lot of education have not gone out to make sure that these regulatory bodies are not telling people, the vulnerable citizenry, what they need to do and what they ought not to do. Yes, there are areas we can see greed also plays a role in all of this, but by the time we continue to educate our people, they will know that there are certain things there's a big no-no. I can't go into this because it's not real. It can't work. And that miracle mindset, which a lot of people have to also, we need to find a way to deal with it. So where it comes from is from our religious society. So we need to, which comes back to the leadership, telling those who man some of those religious societies, tell our people that miracles, yes, happens, miracles occur, but God respects work. God respects systems, processes, and that's how things work.
And it goes back again to your number one point, informed citizenry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ogbonna, for your opening remarks, of course, for our conversation. I was, when I was introducing Mr. Tanemo, I introduced him as a former banker and a lawyer, and despite this, he was a victim of this scheme, and that got me interested in your case. And I'm wondering, with all your banking experience, the technicalities involved and all that, how were you able to become a victim of these operators? It will be interesting to hear briefly how and your realization.
Thank you very much. As Okuku rightly pointed out, the enabling environment is one, and the issue of greed comes in. Then most importantly, the issue of trust. Before now, I've been very, very careful with anything investment, but even while I was working in the banking sector, my superior, someone I respect so much, was on my neck on a daily basis. Come and invest. There's a tree there. Apart from Ponzi, there's another one called pyramid tree that I should get people involved. And I told him, sir, I respect you so much and I believe what you are saying. But for the fact that you are even asking me to get other people to be involved, that I can take the risks on my own and invest in your venture, but getting other people, I don't want to take responsibility of anything that might happen to them. And he tried to convince me that in this case, he has an eatery, he has is into sales of commodities. And the way they do it, they try to legitimize it in the sense that they will go and incorporate a company with the CAC, forgetting the fact that it is not the CAC that regulates investment. We have the Security and Exchange SEC, and they have an Investment Act. They are supposed to regulate them. For issue of money lenders, you have the BOFIA Act that tends to regulate such kind of activities. But they come up with a certificate. I can assure you, 90% of all deposit schemes, they have their CAC registration certificate. That ordinarily is what they use in luring people. Then you now have the issue of trust that I said. You have relatives, you have friends that are like beneficiary. They select, maybe out of 1 million, they select maybe less than 5%, and they present those ones as the successful participants. They show their account statement. They made it, you see it live, that okay, this is their account statement. Some have been given cars, some have been taken abroad.
So when you saw all those, you were...
Mine, in my own case, is my sisters actually.
So your throat got...
No. My sisters came and said, oh, you have free funds with us. It has been lying fallow. We have done this for you, and this is the return. You can have a taste of your investment. I said, well, if you are investing on my behalf and I don't have any risks, because me, I know that this kind of scheme, at the end of it all, he said, no, I shouldn't worry, that they know of the risks. My sisters who are well informed, they said they know of the risks, that the first participants will naturally yield the bountiful harvest. It is those that will come much, much later. And when I did the first set, this MMA in particular, when I did the first one, I got returns immediately. And I was wondering, I said, what kind of business are they into? That
how much did you get?
I think I invested about 600,000. And the return was quite marvelous. And the first time I got paid, and this time around, I didn't bother going back to my sisters to tell them that something is kind of yielding result. I quickly reinvest, and then I started waiting for my entire money. And then I said, what has happened to me? Me, of all people, that I normally will not invest in what I don't know. The shares we all bought when we were working, they all turned out, even the way I was working, the bank I was working, we were forced to buy shares in the bank, and they are all, in fact, I've just thrown away all the certificates because they are worthless. If structured system can even fail, what of unstructured, unregulated? They don't have a registered office.
So how much did you lose to the operator?
I lost close to 800,000.
After
investing about 600, because they started the first investment. My sister did it for me, and she told me she had made quite a substantial amount, and that we should just start first. The first entrance will naturally reap bountiful harvest. Then we will know when to pull out. So me on my own now continued, thinking that since the first one had no issues, and I saw a lot of people. Every home you go, the banking sector witnessed. In fact, the banks then were quite happy because a lot of volume of transaction. It's very simple. You key in certain amount of money. Somebody will say you need help. They call it help, and I keep wondering, who, in the real sense, nobody will teach you how to make money unless maybe you are related or he has seen something in you. But just putting money, and then somebody else too will put his own. So pyramid scheme and Ponzi scheme is a simple, you just rob Peter to pay Paul.
Good.
Okay, it's as simple as that.
That's a very interesting story, really.
You rob Peter
we'll
to
get
pay
to know
Paul.
the details of this much later and then see how it works out with them. Let's cross over to Jos and then hear from Dr. Clement Adewole, that is Head of Department Banking and Finance, University of Jos. Against the background of Tanimu's experience and Obona Okuku's postulation that we have a deficit of uninformed citizenry in this country. Now, Ponzi lie in between, and that's, prying on unsuspected, Nigerians who seem to really make it fast with very high returns, sometimes at no risk, they say. And I can't imagine a business going on and them turning over so much without risk. Give us a perspective of Ponzi and their return to Nigeria, Dr. Clement.
Thank you very much. It's a topical issue. First, I sympathize with my good friend Barrister Okuku on his experience. And I know that so many people have gone through, the same thing and have had that kind of nasty experience. The first thing, to put it in perspective, every investor wants returns. Every investor wants to make a profit from investment. The dynamics have been very well explained by the accelerator theory of investment. We have the internal funds theory of investment. We have the neoclassical theory of investments. Every investment, the basic thing is that every investor requires or needs to get a profit. Now, the Ponzi scheme apparently is an investment outlet, but it is a scam investment outlet. And I think three things describe the Ponzi scheme. The first is that it's a type of fraud. Not always, but it's a type of fraud. The second thing is that it lures investors, lures you to bring in your funds, and pays you very good returns. Using the funds from more recent investors to pay as profit to the much earlier investors. And the third pillar issue there, which we should understand, is that the investor is made to believe that there's a legitimate business activity going on, whereas there is none. You do not profit except you produce, you have products, or you give out service, and then you get rewarded by way of profit. But these activities do not have any underlying business, no concept. And in any case, there's no business that's going to give the kind of returns that they give. I'm sure later we'll talk about how to identify such. But the first thing, usually, is that they give abnormally high returns. We have heard of cases where recently a company promised to pay 30% interest per month on investment, or 30% profit on investment per month. That means, if, for instance, if you invest ₦1 million there, then maybe by the end of the year, your ₦1 million would have transformed into about 3.6 million naira or thereabout. And somebody talked about the issue of attitude, and that is what makes it thrive. Again, I'm sure we are going to come into that later, but let me quickly mention that the issue of orientation, and that is one thing that's going to help us, because we are going to make a number of recommendations and suggestions, but orientation matters a lot. We find out that, now let me talk more about the orientation. You find out that Ponzi schemes thrive mostly during recessions, when people lose their jobs and the cost of living is increasing. So they are tempted to put in funds into this kind of investments that they believe will give them very good income to sustain the increasing cost of living. But what we have failed to know is that, just like I said earlier, you have to have an underlying business activity and understand what the whole concept is for that kind of profit to be sustainable. There's nothing like free money anywhere. It just doesn't drop. And we are beginning to find new meaning for certain words like grace, miracle, like was said earlier, mercy. We are beginning to find new meaning. And sometimes think that, oh, this is an opportunity. This is something I prayed for, and it has come in this way. It doesn't come in that way. Money doesn't drop from nowhere. You have to work for it. So, social influencers, religious organizations, they have a lot to, a role to play in changing the orientation of people in this regard.
Clement Adewale, thank you very, very much. But I'd still like to stay with you. All right, we will return to you as soon as we're able to sort the slight distortion in your audio. But again, Obuna, you listened to Mr. Tanimu's experience.
Yeah.
And obviously, he was well informed about the risks he was going into. And you also listen to Dr. Adewale's analysis, of the pull or the trigger for Ponzi schemes. He says one is recession. Now, my concern is these are ideas, not really businesses, ideas thrown out by smart, intelligent, Nigerians. So how does it concern regulators? How does it concern regulators? Why should the regulators be interested in their operations?
This comes to bring to the fore one of the issues I've always had when it comes to building a society. One, when I say government does not have business doing business, I disagree with that totally because, see, until government becomes entrepreneurial in their thinking, or those who are in government offices begin to think that way, it will be difficult for them to even begin to see how intelligent people are. Because those who are out there, because government is like the umbrella body that, that makes sure that everything, like if it was a home, government is actually the father and the mother at the same time. So government needs to know exactly what the children are doing. So the people like the regulators like SEC, Central Bank, NDIC, all these organizations have to go out there to make sure that some of these things are shut down. And then again, this thing has even gotten to a level where there's one being investigated by the EFCC presently, a young man who collected over 10-point-something billion naira from people, over 180 people. And then he was a bit smart about it. He didn't go to say that he'll be earning so much. He just put it at 20% per annum. Per month, 20% per month.
20% per month.
Per month. He put out 20% or something, not so 20%. Much. Yeah. And then some background check, also found out that the guy said this, he actually knows about the law, that the fee fraud Act of 2006, states that offense is bailable. So he knows that even if he commits this crime, that nothing will happen to him eventually. Because at the end of the day, when he's out on bail, he can actually find his way out. So he was actually willing to actually go to jail he knows that whatever happens, the offense cannot give him more than 10 years jail term. And when he comes out, he will eat the money. So you see, it goes to show that those of us, or those in government, need to actually begin to see how we can make the law a bit more, stronger, harder on people who commit this kind of crimes. Then again, be creative to see how we can, hunt these people down, because they will continue. And then, speaking about culture, our people, our culture, there's some areas we're even overlooking, apart from this investment angle. The betting system in Nigeria has gone to something else.
I was going to come to that, because if we talk about these Ponzi schemes, do the, I don't want to call it traditional, contributory system, lending systems, do they also fall, within this scheme, as Ponzi scheme?
Yeah,
can you classify them as Ponzi schemes?
I won't call them Ponzi, but I will only say that the regulators have to be strong on them to make sure that they do what they have said they will do. Being that if someone creates, let's say, a community like that, and then people contribute monies to it, and then at the end of the day, they deduct their own profit and then, pay you back at the end of the year, there has to be a strong regulation. Because if we don't have trust, built, and we don't have regulation that will actually hold those people accountable, if they disappear with people's funds, what do you think happens? So that means there has to be, just the way you issue out banking licenses, there has to be paid up capitals for those who do those kind of business. So in case anything goes wrong, create a smaller NDIC to monitor the progress or the process to some of these things, so that if anything goes wrong, the populace or those who have invested can actually still get back their money, if even if it's not everything, as in get some percentage of their money. And then those people are persecuted with a different law, not the existing act of 2006, which actually is not as strong. It has to become a very serious, there has to be a serious penalty for those who sit down and create these things, because that's why you still see these things flourish, because they are enablers.
Yeah, we'll talk about the position of the law in this regard as we move on into this program. Abubakar Chanimo, your story was interesting, and of course we really have to look deep into that and then see why it became so interesting. One of the reasons, I think, is that Obona started by saying that there is a whole lot of, a chunk of uninformed Nigerians that need to be informed. And looking at you, a banker, a lawyer, you don't fall into that anyway because you are very much informed. And the Ponzi schemes seem to really thrive so much in this country on a 50-50 basis between the uninformed and the informed, because right now they are coming in strong force, and a lot of their patronizers, I would say informed people. You find professionals, you find doctors, you find lawyers, you find engineers, bankers, and the rest of them, and especially bankers too. Now, what is really happening? Is it the attitude issue? Is it the greed issue? Is it we can't talk about unemployment yet, because the other half is going to deal with the unemployment and underemployment and recession as reasons for that. But for the informed, what's the problem? What's happening?
I think it's about our value system. The society, unfortunately, we place more emphasis in terms of the syndrome of you have made it, and everybody is in a haste. Nobody is looking. Haste is the word. Materialism. Yeah. Everybody's in a haste. Everybody, they call it blow. They want to blow. So you don't know how the blowing normally comes by, but everybody just want an investment. And those people doing it, they are smart enough. They leech on the vulnerability of even the informed people. You see professors. You see. I'm a witness to a very high-ranking investment banker that took the deposit of his customers running into hundreds of millions. I've seen homes where the inheritance of a family, they were all invested in this kind of venture. I suppose what Okuku has said, the regulators, they need to do more. Before now, even when the advent of MMM
Before
commenced.
we talk about regulators, let's look deep into people like you. Okay. I'm just interested in that because people who want to know exactly what pushes me, for instance, into that, knowing that the regulators are not doing the job in courts, I would say, and then these guys are a scam. Fully known that.
He got the first 600,000.
I got my money first. I got the interest. I got the money first and the profit, and I saw it in my bank account. Okay, this money can actually go and it will come back with the yield. So is that, and I did it the second time, equally came back.
Yes, what was the prompt? Yes, for that second time.
From the beginning.
You see, societal pressure. You have family, friends. You have your friend that is telling you that I've done it for about 10 million and I've made close to 3 million, and you keep wondering, there's no investment on it, any genuine investment. Maybe unless you are into maybe properties or something that you can get that kind of investment within a short period of time. And if you've seen your friend, it's like a monkey business. If you want to look at the history of this whole thing, this investment scam has been on from time immemorial, and it will remain. It only changes in terms of the name, the nomenclature, and the mode. But it's with us. It will remain with us. That trust factor, because your friend that you cherish, you know that he's well informed, he's into it, and he's showing you results. This time around, the urge will now be, okay, if Mr. A has done it successfully, out of it, he's been able to purchase a new car, his money came back. The way they go this time around, in fact, you see, they don't come directly these days as Ponzi scheme. They come as genuine investment. They start by having registration with the Corporate Affairs Commission. What most people don't know, you can register any company under the earth, But that doesn't give you the authority, the legitimacy to engage in the business that you claim you are doing. Then in order to give you some element of legitimacy, this time around they'll tell you that they are not that they are just taking the money from this angle and give. No, they will try to now bring in commodities. They will give you, they tell you that on a daily basis you are using a household item, you are using toothpaste, you are using detergent, and they will tell you that there is a profit on it, that if they sell this, that what you are doing, you are networking. They use that term, that you are networking, you are bringing in customers, and it is that profit. The last attempt they try, because they keep coming back to you, and I ask them, how do you regulate this scheme? That in a bank, one of the most expensive items of any bank is the software they use in controlling your deposit, your withdrawal. There's a software at the back end of the computer, in the sense that if you deposit money in Abuja, you can go to Lagos the very next minute and make. All those things are only possible because there is a software that regulates it. Take any investment scam, any Ponzi scam, the first question that you need to ask, what software are they using to regulate? From the software alone, you know that it is a scam because they don't have. Let me share an example. There's one in Kaduna, Maria Moses. You will not believe, even people as high as those in government, were all scammed. Because what he does, he invites dignitaries. He will say out of the proceeds of the so much they've made, they are now intervening in communities by giving them gifts, by, it's a well orchestrated and carefully thought out plan that it will take government intervention, not only those informed. Because, as I said, the economy situation is bad, and at this kind of trying moment, when you see other people benefiting from it, in any Ponzi scheme, there are those that will actually benefit from it. So Nigerians have gotten to the level that, okay, well, we know the risks, we are well informed, we are ready to take the risks. Because some will even give you a caveat that invest the portion of your money that you can do away with. And that is what investment spells out, and they will tell you that. So we all know what we are getting our hands into.
So even if it didn't work out, at least
the experience will
be there.
So
the
next time,
is there.
They will never, I assure you, there's no amount of convincing now from anybody that will make me do any sort of investment.
I think I get something here.
From what is it, Doctor?
Listening to him, actually, the informed ones take out of the monies that they will not feel bad when he goes.
Agbona, yes, Agbona, please keep this thought for him, because I was going to refer to it. I drew that information also from what he's saying. Yes, let's quickly introduce, because our next guest from via Zoom, he's joining us via Zoom. That's the Chief Executive Officer of Cowrie Asset Management Limited and financial analyst. He's a friend of the house, Mr. Johnson Chukwu. Mr. Chukwu, compliment of the season. Good to see you again.
Good morning, compliment of the season. Happy New Year in advance.
Yes,
thank you for having me.
Yes, we see the smile is beaming. I'm sure it's not a smile of affirmation of Ponzi schemes, but a smile of the revelations coming out from the information our guests have been giving us. What do you have to say again about the new, so to speak, firms that SIEC has issued a warning, about?
Okay, let me start by encapsulating some of the things my co-guests have spoken already. There are two major factors that drive or make Ponzi schemes to succeed. One is ignorance, and the second and most important factor is greed. And the key thing is that you can't legislate against greed. You can, through public awareness creation, improve the level of knowledge of the citizens. But people who are greedy will still go for shortcuts to becoming rich. And that's what Ponzi schemes drive on. I was happy when I heard one of the speakers there say that, look, he was being persuaded by his boss. He was a banker, and he was persuaded by his boss, and he was conscious of the fact that he was taking risks, and didn't want to bring in his family members into it. So that clearly shows that he understood what he was doing. So his case was not a case of ignorance. It was a case of, okay, I can nose in and nose out. Like he said, that the earlier comers always come out of it, but those later comers are the ones who get trapped in the collapse. So the Ponzi scheme have been there from the beginning of the world, and it will always be there. You really can't legislate against greed. What happens that they mine ignorance and also mine the greed of those who want to become rich. And there are several guidelines, there are several rules that have been put in place to ensure that people don't fall into Ponzi schemes. I mean, in my time, you have had the forums of this world. We have had an spectre of this world. Those who suffered losses in some of those ones I've just mentioned have also fallen prey to subsequent Ponzi schemes, which shouldn't happen, because if you have been beaten once, you shouldn't fall into it again. But unfortunately, this has got not to tread on. So as the world is evolving, you will have people come up with more complex Ponzi schemes that will seem to pass through the views of non-discerning mind. The new ones we are seeing, they come up and say, look, we are registered with SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. But the key thing is this: if you register with Corporate Affairs Commission, for instance, registration will be, I'm a business, I'm into cocoa export, I'm into so and so items, I'm into farm produce, and then they have a certificate that says you're into farm produce, you're into cocoa export, you're into groundnut export. They come up with all sorts of, we're into agriculture. And I say, look, there is no agricultural investment that will give you the kind of return they are promising you. No investment in the world, and I must emphasize this so that for the listening audience, no investment in the world will give you a consistent 5% return on investment month on month. So once anybody makes you a promise that sounds unrealistic, it's unrealistic. And the rule that if you have to avoid Ponzi scheme is that if it sounds too good to be real, then it is not real. Once somebody makes a promise, if they ask you, like I heard one of my colleagues also talk about, so what are you investing in this? And they said, okay, we are doing FX. What kind of Forex are you doing that you're getting 5% return? Because you must make a return higher than what you are paying me to be able to pay me. Or they tell you they are doing agricultural products. So what kind of agricultural products? We give you returns of 60% per annum consistently, that you can pay me 60% and still make your profit. So the Ponzi schemes are riding on the fact that you are so greedy, you are so ignorant that you come in and they pay those who came earlier with the contributions of subsequent contributors until the flow stops. And those who are subsequent contributors, or the flow is fast to such an extent that they can no longer, the rate of inflow is not as high as to paying the kind of return they are paying to those who are coming earlier. And the system will snap. So it's just about built on abuse of ignorant people's mind and exploitation of the greedy in the society.
Thank you, Johnson Chukwu, for that insight. Ogbonna, you earlier wanted to have a takeaway from Tenimo. What was your thought about what she said, referring to the issues she raised about haste among the Nigerian, people in trying to blow it and then get it done so much so soon and then make it so quick, talking about materialism. What would you take away out of his, experience?
I was heading to where I was heading at is, I realized that he was going to put money that wouldn't hurt him if that money goes. So he was willing to take that risk. But there are people who are uninformed who will not know that he took that decision within his own, accounting space, to know that if that 600,000 goes, I won't feel it. And then those people will now go and put in their own, probably all their disposable income, or probably their school fees or their house rent, and then they now lose the entire money. That's when they now become suicidal and all of that. But in the whole concept of it all, it is not, it comes back to, greed and misinformed, society who still want to get rich quick and all. But in all of this, I think another very crucial thing is there has to be an alternative. There has to be a well-structured alternative where people see where to put their monies in. People always we tell people to save money. You save money in banks and all of that. How much interest you get from it. But if there are opportunities everywhere, and the opportunity will only come when pioneering starts. And pioneering can only come when the government begins to, push for this new concept, new ideas for them to begin to flourish in our country. Then we can now set up structures where individuals with those kind of money, these things have happened, they're not rocket science. It's happened in Chile. That's actually how privatization happened in Chile. The privatization in Chile was done with people's funds like that being pulled together to buy strategic government assets for them that now began to yield interest for the people. So like the way we have TCN today, in Chile is owned by the people. So citizens of the citizens of the country are the ones who, with their $500, $200, and all of that, pool the resources through a government structure to buy off an infrastructure, strategic infrastructure like that. So it actually helps you, the monies you spend on vandalism, becomes lower because they know they own the assets. So they actually have to protect their assets. So these are creations. These are things I think we need to start thinking out of the box so that people, because when they have those free funds, my friend will not have 600,000 if there was a structured transaction where he thinks, yes, it might take a while for this to yield interest, but it's something I'm going to become a stakeholder in. He probably will just drop that money there.
My other concern as well, drawing from his experience, is the fact that within the banking community, it's well structured. I mean, this is a community where everything is scrutinized. Yeah. You must have you must have your collateral. You must provide all these things before. Yes, you must have a good structured business model. Yeah. You understand? They know the risks involved in such things. Yet, you heard him. A lot of bankers are patronizing these operators of the Ponzi schemes. Is it a cause for concern?
Yeah, it is. So, you see, it now begins to speak to norms, the things we believe in, those miracle mindset, those people who are so greedy, thinking that if I do this little, I can get so much. People calling it favor. No, that's not what it is. It's actually being greedy. So if people who understand processes now decides to go outside the process. So there has to also be a way where those people would be slapped back into order. There has to be a system, because that's actually how to create a system. You create a system by having somewhere, somehow you cannot just slap people back into being back to order. So it's a lot of work, really. It's an uphill task.
I'd like Mr. Chukwu to also speak more about this concern. If Mr. Chukwu is still with us.
It's actually an irony that, like you said, bankers who are experienced, who work in structured environments are also victims of Ponzi schemes or also patronize Ponzi schemes. The basic thing I mentioned earlier is a greed factor. A good banker will know all the investment options available within the society and should be able to exploit and explore legitimate investment outlets. So if a banker now decides to patronize a Ponzi scheme, he's doing that out of greed. And that's why I mentioned that you really cannot legislate against greed. It's not a matter of beating them into action. They're using their personal resources to bet. It's like those who go to gamble and they are hoping that they will win and others will lose. So that the challenge we have is that, and it applies to every country. It's not a matter of Nigeria. Nigeria is not a peculiar situation. United States of America, is the most sophisticated financial market in the world. Benny Madoff, for more than 17 years, lived off the rich and the mighty in the U.S. through the Madoff Ponzi scheme, the largest Ponzi scheme in the world ever. So it's not just a matter, it's just a matter of people who are looking for what does not exist. People who want to get rich overnight, who want to become richer than what normal, consistent investment would generate. And that's what drives these Ponzi schemes. And unfortunately, the challenge you have is that when people who should know are involved, they become like a proof that the scheme is legitimate. If, for instance, somebody hears that Johnson Chukwu has invested, if the Ponzi scheme says Johnson Chukwu is one of our patrons, he's invested 1 million or 500,000, it will motivate and encourage ignorant people to go in. And that's what they fear. The concern when bankers get in, they say, we have customers who are AGFs, so banks who are GFs, and so what are you? So you wonder, for you who is a poor, wretched person, you wonder, so how much is my 200,000 worth if the bankers are putting in 2 million, 3 million? And the bankers are doing it fully aware that, look, they are taking an unnecessary risk because they want to just quickly nose in and nose out. They want to exploit a system that they know is fault, is fraudulent. And the key thing is that if I were in government and there's a Ponzi scheme that failed, what I would do, I would focus on resolving the issue related to the downtrodden, the very poor people in the society, and allow those who knew and went in to carry their can and they take their losses. Because I have no pity for them, because if you know and you really take that risk and you validate, because what they validate a Ponzi scheme by being part of it. So, and you now sucking the poor who have no knowledge because you are involved already. So you are the one that should be responsible for whatever loss that those poor encounter or suffer.
Thank you so much, Johnson Chukwu, for that insight. Let's cross over to Jos and then hear from, Dr. Clement Deole, Head of Department of Banking and Finance, University of Jos. Let's x-ray this stream further and look at it very critically. Greed, for instance, ignorance, trust, attitude, orientation, these are all, behavioral trends in human beings. And of course, these are not really issues that can be, be treated like that without looking deep into the society itself, where these people come. And when we look at Nigerian society, there are lots and lots of negatives there that may push a lot of people into Ponzi's and partake in them, and then later on get scammed. Against the background of the fact that these, Ponzi schemes or schemers come with some complex ideas and issues, and very appealing ones for that matter most of the time. They also come up with beautiful names. And then these names can easily lure people into believing that it's really worthwhile. Look at the instance of maybe Smile to Charity, Help to Gate, and sometimes, donation help and things like that. Nigerians are vulnerable, just like any other group of human beings. In your own opinion, how do we now look at how do we now treat this attitude thing within the context of the Nigerian economy?
Okay, thank you. Yes, Nigerians are vulnerable. Nigerians are hardworking. Most Nigerians are not laid back. They are ready to work. We did a study about 5 years ago, and this will underscore some of the things we have heard about the demography of those who patronize Ponzi schemes, so that we can understand their psyche. First, we discovered that more than 90% of the patrons were actually educated. They had passed through tertiary education. And within that percentage, that 90%, we discovered that about a third of them were completely ignorant about what they were going into. And they were unwilling or lazy to seek new knowledge, to understand what they are going into. We also had about a third who were in denial. They sensed something might be wrong, but they were just in denial. And they were trying to rationalize the kind of promises that they were giving. Some of them will mention, they are into petroleum because it's believed that once you mention petroleum, there's a lot of money to be made in it, or Forex. And then some also try to get credibility through association, just like Johnson Chukwu said. There was a particular case where a very prominent figure was mentioned as the chairman of one of the groups, and it was false. And these people were not even going to ask further questions to verify or to see proof that this man was the chairman of the so-called, company. And then we now have another 1/3 that knew that it was fraudulent. They know it, but they believe that somehow they'll get in and get out. They'll get in and get out. And surprisingly, we found that some who even lost in previous, engagements or experience also rushed into new Ponzis when they came up, which suggests that it's a kind of betting mentality. So that comes to the attitude, just like you said, just like Johnson Chukwu said, if something looks too good to be real, then it's not likely to be real. But I have a big problem there. Probably because of the difficult times, maybe fewer job opportunities, maybe high cost of production, low profitability. You now find people exploring other wild means of making money. Because just like I started with, Nigerians are not laid back. They are hardworking and they want to get rich quickly. That may not be a problem, but it's also a problem. So, and that's where the attitude comes in. And now, the danger is that, as against what we said earlier, that when something looks too good to be real, then it's not likely to be real. We are changing that concept in Nigeria now. People are now beginning to believe that everything is possible. They are beginning to believe that there shouldn't be any concept of something that is not possible. That in itself may not be a problem if it drives you, for positive growth. But we are taking it the very negative way. And that was why I said earlier that to address this problem, before we look into other areas, we need to address this sense of, knowing what is wrong, but still going into it because we believe that that is the only opportunity that we have. And again, I repeat, the issues of some of these words that we use. Somebody was in their need of money, and then an opportunity for a Ponzi came, and they promised him a certain reward or return within a period, and he was excited. And to him, that was the answer to his prayer, to his petition. So we're beginning to find new words, new meaning for, like I said earlier, things like miracle, things like, favor and so on. It's not only in Nigeria. Look at the Madoff's case in US, where about $65 billion was lost. Elie Wiesel, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, I quote him, he said, we thought referring to Madoff now, he said, we thought he was God. We trusted everything in his hands. His foundation lost $15.2 million in that scam. So we need religious leaders, people who can influence opinion, the National Orientation Agency, to mount a campaign. And then, of course, educational institutions, like I said, over 90% are passed through tertiary institutions. They need to develop curriculum that will specifically teach this concept, because this thing is more dangerous than we think. If we get later in this program, we can look at the effect on the economy. We can look at the effect on political system, on social system. Look at what happened in Albania in 1996. Over 2,000 people died when there was uprising as a result of, losses from Ponzi scheme. And if you look at the Madoff's case again, I said 65 billion. That's a lot of money. That's about 20% of Nigeria's GDP as of 2008. About $337 billion GDP. That's at 20% of a country's GDP. And because, challenging times will come, and it is not even only Nigerians need to understand that it is in challenging times that opportunities to come. You need to explore the opportunities. And there is nothing that is sustainable that will not grow gradually. There is nothing that is sustainable that will give you guaranteed returns or consistently high performance. You will always have peaks and valleys, highs and lows for any business that is sustainable. So we need to teach these things in our institutions, not only to business students, but to everybody, even in our technical institutions, specifically teach this. Then, I will touch now on the issue of deterrence, which Ogbonna spoke about earlier. He referred to the Advance Fee Fraud and Other Related Offences Act 2006. The truth is that we need to have a relook at the penalties there. We are not saying push everybody into jail. In fact, I'll be talking more in terms of restitution. How do you help people to recover before we even talk about jailing? But if we are talking about jailing, then it should be something that should adequately deter people who would want to commit this offense. In Section 1, Subsection 1A and C of that Advanced Fee Fraud and Other Related Offences Act 2006, it prescribes minimum of 7 years and maximum of 20 years imprisonment. Look at the US case, Madoff. Madoff was jailed for 150 years, which is the maximum. I think he died this year in federal prison. So we need to have a look at some of these things and really take a stronger preventive, stronger preventive measures, whatever can deter people and build up change people's attitude, to understand that certain things that are wrong should just not be done. Let's be patient. Being patient doesn't mean you are not laid back, that you are lazy. No. You need to work hard, consistently, and be contented with growing gradually. That's the kind of psychology we need to build in our people.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Dr. Clement Adewale, who will x-ray that further when we come back. It's now time for our first break, and then we now continue after the break. But when we come back, we'll look at these issues as he put them, and then the issue of, the deterrence, and the survey he conducted, and of course, the losses and the effect of the losses on the polity, and of course, on the nation generally. Stay with us. It's Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, welcome back. This is Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Again, we sincerely apologize for the slight audio mix there. But we'll continue our conversation on, of course, the Ponzi schemes. And just before we went on break, Nadabu talked about the issues that Dr. Adewale and, of course, the other guests have raised, issues about prosecution, issue about deterrence, issue about effect on the economy. I think we should also look at the effect of on the economy and how we can probably turn, these schemes, make the best out of these schemes, out of these laudable ideas, but thwarted laudable ideas, coming from this young, from these people. So my question again will be, I would like, maybe everyone will contribute, but let me go to Mr. John Chukwu. Ogbonna talked about what happened in Chile, how the privatization, was done out of the resources of some of these schemes, which I think is, a commendable process. One of the two firms mentioned by SIEC, in fact, one of the operators, pointed at some structures they have been able to, erect out of this scheme. Is that enough to exonerate that scheme? And is it something we can look up, look towards? Is it something SEC or the regulators, institutions concerned can work on? Okay, we've lost Chukwu. I don't know if Dr. Adewale is around, if Dr. Adewale can take up this question. All right. Dr. Adewale, I don't know if you were listening to me. I would like to refer to what Ogbonna said earlier on about how privatization process started in Chile. from the resources of some of these schemes and all that. Is this something we can also apply here? Because one of the two firms SEC mentioned in the warning, made public, pointed at some of the structures they are putting up, from these returns from this scheme and all that. Is it enough to exonerate that firm, and is this something that we can apply?
Okay. Yes, I think one of the things that really drive people into Ponzi is because they also do not have alternative investment outlets. Some are, like I said in our study, about 30% were actually ignorant. They will benefit from any information that will direct them, to register the capital market operators and how, they can invest their funds. So the issue of privatization would come in. But of course, that in Nigeria, we really need to address something. Johnson Chukwu said something. He said, any investment that will give you, I think, over 5% per month or so is not feasible as it is now. We need to get rid of some of these other issues so that they will not even confuse the investors. An investor that sees an opportunity to invest and get 30% per month income from a particular is not likely to go into an investment that would yield less than 5%. And that is why we need to ensure that there is zero tolerance, for these schemes. SEC raised an issue regarding one of those companies recently. And I saw the response, their reply. And they said, look, we are not a capital market operator. In other words, they were passing a message to SEC that you do not have any role to regulate us. And they said, rather, we rely on our partners to contribute money to us. And that is why we have to make the law very clear, explicit, that as long as you raise money from someone for the purpose of doing business, someone who is not a promoter of that business, then you must get the necessary registration and pass through certain channels that would throw open your operations. So yes, going into partnership, going into this, not even only partnership, I mean on privatization and allowing people ownership of state-owned, enterprises, even encouraging people to go into cottage industries. There are so many things, and that's where you can set up centers. There are so many things we can do to promote entrepreneurship in people. What people need is just guide them. We have those who are truly ignorant. We guide them. Those who are greedy, we try to reform them. And I believe that with time, we'll get to. This issue, just like Johnson Chukwu said, would always be with us. It's been with us for a very long time. Even in developed countries, we still have this issue. But we must be in control of it. And there must be clear deterrence and also encouragement for people to do the right thing and not, to go there. And also SEC, when I know that usually they publish names of some of these firms that are not registered, that are blacklisted, they should also publish names of those that are registered, those investment outlets. And the promoters of these valid investment outlets also need to do a lot more in terms of marketing these investment outlets. And we also need to become more ingenious. Our capital market operators need to become more ingenious and need to provide more platforms, opportunities for people to invest in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Clement Adeole, Head Department of Banking and Finance. We still have, that's University of Jos, we still have a commercial load on our shoulders. Let's drop it before we continue.
Nigeria's democracy has arrived. He shall usher us into a new phase of development, peace, and prosperity. He is the father of the new Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Welcome to another season of giving Nigerians hope yet again. We are sure of a great future for both ourselves and generations yet unborn. We look forward to your leading us as a nation into our manifest destiny. Though the challenges against us as a people are many, we know that your leadership shall set us on the right path to our greatness. A new dawn beckons on us all, and having you as our president is a precursor to this. Thank you for believing in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who is a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The ever-busy ancient city of Onitsha is a commercial hub with millions of commuters seamlessly linking other states daily for business, leisure, and other purposes. To upscale its road network, the construction of a 1.6-kilometer long second Niger bridge, including a 10.3-kilometer highway furnished with other infrastructure, has been in motion by the federal government. This project will ease congestion on the existing 56-year-old Onitsha bridge and boost the economic capacity of the state as it easily connects to other parts of the country. The completion of the world-class second Niger Bridge Onitsha will be one of the many proud moments of the state, its people, Nigerians, and foreign investors. Onitsha, which hosts the largest market in Africa, is geared up to boast of an impressive road network. Once again, these moments are made alive by the federal government, and it is deserving of all the applause.
We have come to the end of another successful year. We wish to appreciate all those who mean so much to us. Our clients, the 3 tiers of government, ministries, departments, and agencies, corporate bodies, advertisers, religious bodies, civil society groups, political parties. You are esteemed viewers. Together, we made 2021 great. Together, we shall make 2022 greater. Thank you. Wishing you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year from all of us at NTA.
Welcome back. We're really racing against time on this program, and we have one very, very important, aspect of this, which has started being put on the table. Dr. Clement Aduole has started talking about, how to really, make the best use of the system instead of trying to just condemn completely. Let's hear from Johnson Chukwu. We're talking about deterrence. Our primary aim here this morning, of course, here is to see how more Nigerians will become more educated about this and then approach it cautiously and with the view of trying to, make the best out of it. Johnson Chukwu, tell us in maybe 120 seconds, if you may, please, what you think should be done about laws governing these operations. There are some sections that were quoted, and of course, these laws needs to be looked into, penalty of 7 years minimum, and then 20 years maximum. That could go to the most serious case, I believe, but even judges don't even go to that level at this moment. What do you think, or how do you think the laws should look like in order for it to serve as real deterrent?
Thank you. Let me start from what I would call the preventive measure before we talk of the punitive measures, which are the after effect. Let's talk of what we call pre-audits, and then before we talk of post-audits. The first thing is that we need to improve financial knowledge in the population. And this should start from the primary schools. Today, people in nursery schools, primary schools are exposed to information technology training or teaching. So we should also introduce financial education at that early stages in people's development. The problem is that a lot of people do not have strong financial knowledge. Some of the things I mentioned here about the kind of return you can make in any environment are not known to people. So people are now importing religious knowledge into financial matters. Like I think Dr. McGinn said, when people say, look, all things are possible. With Christ, all things are possible. With God, all things are possible. Yeah, truth is that with God, all things are possible. But that does not mean you should tempt God, because even Christ himself said you shouldn't tempt God. So the key thing is that we need to improve financial knowledge right from primary school up to university level. Everybody who has gone through a formal education should have some level of financial knowledge education. Second issue is that the level of sanctions, unfortunately, our laws are quite weak. The process of prosecuting and the process of even conviction is weak in the country. We need to strengthen our law so that when people run foul of the law, when people take advantage of others and exploit people, they are severely punished. I mean, Dr. Clement mentioned the 150 years imprisonment that was imposed on Madoff that died in April this year. That's the kind of deterrence that you need to sanction and punish those who go out of their way to exploit the society. Unfortunately, like I said, our law is too weak, even to address other more severe issues. That financial crime is now seen as of little consequence to the society when you are dealing with issue of kidnapping, issue of robbery, issue of all these violent crimes. So it sucks up of the pressure, the energy and the resources of the security agencies to pursue financial crimes. So they don't leave it to those who have suffered to only bear their losses. We need to strengthen our laws. We need to make sure the process of prosecution is successful and ends in conviction.
Okay, Mr. Chukwu, thank you. Thank you very much for the points that you have raised in your concluding remarks. And I would also like to appreciate you, before we lose Zoom connection, let's quickly appreciate you, Mr. John Chukwu, Chief Executive Officer, Cowrie Asset Management Limited, and of course, a financial analyst. We appreciate your contributions as always. Thank you very much. Dr. Adewale, you have also raised issues on how we can, fine-tune these schemes, and probably make them better. You talked about the issue of deterrent and the act, but are there chances that they can also, so that we don't throw away the, baby and the bath water? Are there chances that these schemes can be legalized, and then made to register?
Yes, just like what I said earlier about creating other business opportunities or other investment outlets. When we look at the amount involved here, for instance, in this, between January and October this year, it's reported that about 50 billion naira has been lost, to Ponzi schemes. So you can now imagine if we harness this and we bring in, just like has been said about financial education, we bring in and raise the spirit of entrepreneurship more in people and provide infrastructure, provide the right environment that will encourage people and build a mentality in people that the joy of going into business is not to rush and get rich quickly, but the joy of making a contribution to the society. And that is where we talk about, changing the orientation of the people. Then we can achieve a lot from this. Take note that there is a big, effect on the economy when you look at this kind of amounts, being taken away off the system. And it results into some other problems, like even money laundering, and it has effects on the economy. You're also diverting money from productive sectors in the economy. There are some sectors that can do with this kind of funds, and there will be an underlying business transaction which will yield profit. And that's where, like I said, ingenuity has to come in. We need to be more industrious. We need to help people to understand and to challenge them on the various opportunities, that are available while creating, the right environment, for such. And take note that when you also divert this kind of sum from productive sectors, it's also going to affect some of the policies you have put in place. Like you are.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Clement Adewale, Head of Department Banking and Finance, University of Jos. It's a pleasure being with us this morning. But before we let go, Bona Ukuku, briefly, what's your parting shot on this issue, the return of the Ponzis, and what needs to be done, briefly, about the whole system?
Let me quickly say that it will be good for us to actually look at it from the educational point of view. Now, I say that because there are two kinds of education here. And if a research carried out showed that a lot of people who got involved in this thing are well-educated people, now it goes to show that a lot of attention has been paid to formal education, not informal education. And what you get from formal education is certificate, and what you get from informal education is actually result, real knowledge. And then that I always give a very simple, illustration when I'm doing this is when I say, because when you're looking for a professor of auto mechanic has equation filled in his head, 2x plus y plus 2 double xy. But when his car gets bad, he takes it to the roadside mechanic who, through self-dedication, self-training, have developed himself to know how to fix automobiles. So now, if that is the case, now the government have come out with a program, a development plan. And the plan, I like the plan. The plan says we're expecting over 200 billion from the private sector. So that means it is time for us to begin to harness all these monies lying around so that people can push it into the productive sector, and then we'll get our country running.
How can the banking sector help briefly to, check these activities? Quickly.
Most financial transactions are routed through the banks. I did not mention much earlier. Even the bank as an institution, a lot of them are involved in Ponzi scheme in a way. So now it behoves on the regulators, the central bank, the Security and Exchange Commission, the NDIC, to opt the ante. They need to now go beyond reactionary examination. They should be proactive. They should ensure that they adopt preventive measures. If the banking sectors can get it right, it will trickle down to all other sectors.
Ahmed Abubakar Tanimu, private legal practitioner, human rights activist, social commentator, former banker, and of course, victim of a Ponzi scheme. I'd like to thank you very much for sharing your experience with us on Good Morning Nigeria. And Ubuna Ukuku, investment promotion and economic development expert, also thank you very much for sharing your perspectives with us. Okay, let's take a look at the developments in the sporting world. Nigeria Football Federation has appointed Jose Pesero new Super Eagles head coach. Let's take a look at other.
At the end of the NFF Executive Committee meeting held via video conference on Wednesday. Jose Pesero will succeed Genaro, who was sacked recently. The committee, however, resolved that the interim head coach